Okay, welcome to the Easy Project. Only myself today. Eddie's on another holiday, third holiday in a month. But we got someone special here today. We've got Dayne Weston, man. Thanks for coming, giving up your time, bro. What have you been up to, bro? Yeah.
Mate, on the middle of my 4 days, 2 days on, 2 nights.
Yeah.
So I work tonight.
Yeah.
I'm a fiery now.
Yeah, nice.
So off to work tonight, mate. So just cruising today.
Yeah, cruising. Thanks for giving up your time. You know, I know Eddie said that we've been trying to get you on for a long time, but it's finally made. You're a good supporter of the podcast too. I like that. So, but before we always start, we always go through the flowers, and got something good here for you, bro. All right, listen up. Dayne Weston, born in Goulburn, New South Wales, began playing rugby league at the age of 6. He left home at 15 to pursue an NRL career, completing high school while representing the Illawarra Steelers. At 17, he signed with the Cronulla Sharks, debuting in the NRL in 2007 under Ricky Stuart. Over his career, he played for the Cowboys, Panthers and Storm before joining the Leigh Centurions in the UK Super League. In 2017, Dayne retired for personal reasons, facing some of his darkest moments. In 2019, he met his wife, Lidia, and surrendered his life to Jesus. He worked in the NRL Game Development before becoming the Wellbeing Operations Manager for the QRL. In 2022, he founded Men of Gold, a men's mental health organisation offering group support and educational programs for schools, businesses and sporting clubs. Now a firefighter on the Gold Coast, Dayne is happily married with 2 boys and a stepson. He's dedicated to making a positive impact in his community and firmly believes everyone is created with a purpose. My man, Dayne Weston. You like that, bro?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so we always like to, pump up the guests. But that's good, man. I love the fact that you're always willing to give back to the community. And yeah, man, and in that intro you did have some tough times there, but we'll get into that later. But before we start, let's get into the childhood, man. What was life like growing up out in Goulburn?
Yeah, it was humbling, mate. Yeah, it was a little humble country town. I love my upbringing.
Yeah.
I think the best part of that is, you meet a lot of country people and you don't come across too many bad people from the country.
Yeah.
And because you don't really have a lot. So you learn to do things and make things up and use your imagination a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. All we knew was rugby league as kids. Toddy Carney's old man was our coach growing up, and we had
Big
I
TC.
think we were undefeated for about 6 or 8 years in the Canberra comp, and yeah, it was really good. My old man's still back there, but apart from him, everyone's kind of moved up here, which is good for the kids now. To be surrounded by family, but yeah, really good, mate. Don't really head back then now. There's not too much there, but yeah, it was a good start.
It's good, man. Like that's how we like to start this. We always get to see Goulburn like you hear a lot about Goulburn, and like the only person that I know is from Goulburn is Toddy, but now I know Dayne Weston's from there. Yeah. Were you good mates with Toddy as a young kid though?
I only met Todd because I was plenty younger.
Yeah.
So back then you played for your school. Before the Goulburn Stockman was created, you played pretty much for your school.
Yeah.
But I was on board in the end of the year, so I used to play like the year below me because I was literally that age until 15th of December.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until it started getting a bit serious and they're like, no, you've got to go up to your age group. And I went and joined Toddy's team at the time was North Goulburn.
Yeah.
And then that was, I think, under 8s or under 9s. And that's where I first met him, and then we went to high school together and as such. But we did everything. We played touch, we played cricket, basketball. Our footy team was just played everything. It was so good.
What were you like as kids, like away from the footy field? Get up to no good, or
No, not really. I wasn't a goody two shoes, but at the same time, I was always cautious kid. As soon as I realised, I had a dream that I wanted to play NRL. I had a motorbike as a kid, and I sold that because I just didn't want to get injured, all these kind of things. And not as bad as Todd. Like Todd had a real sheltered kind of upbringing because he was really focused early on, and he'll tell you that. But at the same time, you just, I've always had this mindset. I want something. I want to do everything I can to do it. And later in life, I'll learn that I probably lost a lot of my childhood because of that. Because I probably didn't, enjoy being a kid. But yeah, I learned that later on through psychology. But it's
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that because, like, you being from a country town, sometimes it's like ingrained into you. Listen, man, like this is you. If you really want to make it out of it, you got to really focus on this, and this, and it takes away from being a normal kid. Like I know when I was a young kid, like coming out of being brought up down in Sydney West, like it was evident. You could see the people that were going down the wrong path, but at the same time, I still enjoyed my childhood. But then, like you say, years later, it's crazy to think that, man, like I wish I could have had more fun as a kid.
Yeah.
Is that a regret? Like, when you look at life?
Yeah, not so much a regret, mate. More of an understanding of probably why I am the way I am now.
Yeah.
And I suppose when I was going through some real tough times, actually understanding myself a little better. And when psychologists would bring that up and say, I just feel like you've lost a lot of your childhood, and that's the reason for X, Y, and Z. It all starts to make sense.
Yeah.
And I started, when I retired, I started doing things that I would have done when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds silly, but it was almost like no one would have thought it was something I would have liked to have done as a kid, but I was actually reliving what I probably should have done when I was younger. And some people can relate to that, but I didn't really think it was a thing until obviously it got revealed to me. But it's
Yeah, let's. When did the love for actual rugby league start for you? Like, was it at the age of 6? Did you say this is me, or?
Yeah, Mum always says, I remember just bringing a note home from school to play footy, and again, like I said, you played for your school team back in Goulburn then, and then. I remember Dad will tell me that I just went for whoever was winning. So I supported the Bulldogs, Panthers, and then I think the 92, 93 Broncos got me. And then I was a fanatic Broncos fan growing up. And I just loved, I always say, I remember watching the grand final and I said to my nan that I want to win a comp and do a lap of one with my 2 boys. And I was only a young kid. And I get to do that in England in a different, way. It wasn't the NRL and but it's just when you had a dream at a young age like that. Like I think from early on, I seen something that I probably couldn't fathom at that age. But for a little kid to be thinking like that, I think it was always something that I wanted. And then once I got a taste of it, and as I got a little bit older, I wanted it right or wrong.
Yeah, 100%. There's always that. We always say it's cliche, but you put something. You see something in the future and you go, man, I'm going to work towards that. I'm going to work so hard that I'm going to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
That's so true, Who were the, growing up, at a young age, who were the people? Was he an old man or was it Toddy's old man?
Yeah, Daryl was Todd's dad. Was a real big influence on all of us. He was a real father figure. He was hard on us, but he got the best out of us, and he was he knew how to, I suppose, like a good man manager. He knew how to rip into that person and probably not rip into the other person. And we learn a lot, through Todd's old man. A lot of people say, oh, he was harsh at times and whatnot, but without his guidance and what he did for us, we, wouldn't have had the success as kids, but we wouldn't have had as good a time either. We were open to so many opportunities at that age statewide, playing Cambridge Park, out of Penrith, playing for state titles in this little town in Goulburn. It was pretty cool, mate. But obviously, Dad took me everywhere. Mum and Dad were, obviously doing whatever they could to make sure I got the best opportunity. But mate, I was never talented by any means. I had to work hard to just get what I got, and I'm proud of that. But there was always Gary Keys, is a friend of Dad's who. When I wanted to quit as a 14-year-old, parents went through a divorce and there was a bit going on, and my love for it kind of disappeared a bit. And I remember Keezy just saying to me he could see that I had potential, but Dad and I were clashing, and so Dad worked at the jail in Goulburn, and he did majority of his life, and they had a gym there, and Keezy he said, mate, I'll take you to the gym, I'll do this with you, do that. And always, thank him for that, mate, because I reckon if he didn't pull me aside and want to do that for me, I probably don't go and continue on playing. I've always had only a small circle of friends and family, mate, that I don't go too far wide. But Mum and Dad and Keezy and obviously Daryl's Toddy's old man was pivotal at the beginning.
Yeah. So like, we look at like your childhood. We look at everyone wants to make these rep teams. Everyone wants to make New South Wales schoolboys and all that. What were you like? Were you like that? Man, damn it! Like you made these district teams, but you couldn't make that. Were you that type of?
Yeah, well, the reason I went to like Wollongong and ended up playing at Dapto was for that reason. Back then, I think we were getting that good as a Goulburn team. A lot of the guys they'd probably have 8 or 9 in the Raiders, all their rep teams and stuff, and I'd never make them.
Yeah, true.
And then as time went on, I ended up playing on the wing for Goulburn because like back then, if you weren't that good, that's where you ended up.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the, I started not enjoying it that much, and Dad took me to Wollongong and started playing for Dapto. But that's when I started the rep stuff there with the Steelers, and I think my first rep one, Harold Matthews, I played hooker.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a big kid.
big hooker, bro.
But yeah, and the same thing. I played schoolboy footy, opens for 2 years just for New South Wales, but never made Australia. Was always there or thereabouts, you know, like just you're doing my best. But it was never setting the world on fire, and I was never a standout kid, or but coming through like even one of my good mates, Daniel Bacco, like just an absolute gun.
Damn, Bacco.
Schoolboy footy, like one of the most skillfulest, talented blokes I've ever seen.
He's Queensland boy, eh?
Yeah.
I remember he was at Parramatta. He came to Parramatta.
He did, yes.
Yeah. Man, he was a big kid, man.
Yeah. He's a fire. He's been a fire the last 14 years.
Is he up here too?
Yeah. He lives around the corner. He's a champion, mate. But like, he was someone that was just set the world on fire. Schoolboy footy, like. Yeah. But yeah, mate, it's all part of it, and I think too, like those setbacks and wanting to be there but not, it just builds that resilience in yourself to want it more and want to keep going.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember those times as a young kid, man. I was just going, man, like you try and make one team and you never, because you remember when we used to get the letters. You used to get letters and go, and man, I was that one that I used to go try out for different like rep teams, like the Roosters and that, in Sydney Comp, and get the letters and goes, damn, you didn't make it. It pissed me off, eh? But I know what you mean now. So like, it's good. So let's get fast forward to your journey at Illawarra, like the Steelers. With obviously the Harold Matthews and all that. How does that who were the players around you then?
Good question. Dan Hunt was there.
Obviously, eh?
Yeah, he was there. Who else did I have there? Yeah, trying to think.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was, mate. But I did 15. So back then, Harold Matthews was 15s. SG Ball was 17s. Yeah. And the following year, it changed to I forget what it changed to, but we went. Oh, it might have been 16s and 18s, and it swapped, and then we went SG Ball straight up. Yeah. But I only ended up doing the 2 years SG Ball, and then I had 1 year to run, and then I ended up getting signed at Cronulla.
Yeah.
But Steelers was good, like Wynn Stadium down in Wollongong. It's such a good spot. But
100%.
Even that Wollongong comp, as such, it's competitive, and get the opportunity as a young bloke that you sit on the bench for first grade at Dapto, and then you get to play. You're only a 16-year-old kid, but even those little cool experiences that no one probably recognises because it's not up in the big smoke, but it's still cool.
The good old big league days, eh? Remember those big league books? I used to go, man, I want to see my name in the teams here, man. How did we go to Sharks, man. Like, how was that? Like, you got to be coached by one of the greats, Ricky Stuart.
Yeah.
Tell us about the pre-seasons and all that back at Sharks.
When Sticky wasn't there when I first got there. Stuart Raper was. And so I went there, finished school, went straight there, lived in the Shark house. It was me, Jeremy Lattimore, Dane Nielsen.
Is that a big fella, Dane Nielsen?
He played centre at Melbourne. Played Origin.
There was another big, like, I remember playing against the Sharks, man, like as a young kid, and I could just remember you guys just being tall. Ciro, yourself, and then someone else. But
it was good. End of 2006, I played flag Premier League, and then Stuart Raper was just come to me and he's like, we don't have a spot for you in the full-time squad anymore. And I was just like, and I was deflated. Yeah. And I was kind of rattled with it because I was kind of like, I've got nothing else at the end of the year.
true.
And he got the sack,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing that happened for me
Yeah, true.
because my manager kind of spoke with Flano, who was coming to the Sharks, as assistant coach with Sticky, and told him about me. He goes, we'll give him a pre-season to prove himself. So I got another chance to stay at Cronulla and back myself. And I remember playing in a trial in Parks, and I just did some really good things. And Sticky was all over me after that, and he's just like, mate, you're going nowhere. We're keeping you. Just showed so much faith, and then so I stayed on. And then a few rounds in, I got dropped to out of Premier League.
Yeah.
And
It's all right, bro.
Got dropped out of Premier League, and talking about the big league, I used to sit there and that week, and I'd be one of them. And I was in Jersey 22, and I was like, oh crap, I'm not playing reserve grade this week. And then we used to have club sessions, and he brought that from the Roosters, where 20s, reserves, and first would all train, and and I was out the back, and so I was already had a beanie bonnet because I knew I probably wasn't playing this week, and then we had Dave Gillespie doing a forward session out the back, and he goes, partner up, and I was with Ben Ross, and we just did this defensive session anyway. Just after it, about 10 minutes, Sticky pulls it up, and he's like, right, everyone stop, went off his nut, and he's like, the only bloke having a go here is Westo. He's like, what is everyone else doing? Like, you blokes playing first grade. He's the only one having a go. And I'm sitting there kind of chuffed inside, but a little bit embarrassed. And he's like, Westo, you defend like that in the next few weeks, you'll be playing in my team. Yeah. And I just went from, that just shows the roller coaster you're in. You think, not playing this week. And the next minute he said, if I do that, I'll be playing. And anyway, sure enough, we go out in the field, and at training, he said to Jimmy Dimmick, who was the coach, like, Westo's starting front row in your team this week. So I was like, I'm playing for reserve grade at least. Following week, we had the bye, and I remember our trainer coming in, and I was ready to go home to Goulburn, had the car packed, and Sticky goes, the trainer said, Westo, just go home after weights, you're done. And I was like, oh, you beauty. And he's like, no, but you got to come back tomorrow. And I was off it, and I didn't know why yet. And then he's like, you're 18th man. But back then, 18th man never played. It was just, and you didn't even suit up. You just went along. Anyway, Reece Williams under injury cloud, and then went and trained the next day, and it all started sinking in a bit. I was like, this would be good, you know. Anyway, session finished, nothing was said. Reece Williams was a player that was tough as nails, mate.
I remember Reece.
He never wanted to let anyone get a leg up, you know. So I was like, I'm not playing. And Gal come out of the sheds after we'd finished training. He goes, you're in. And I didn't believe him. And then Flano come and give me a tip sheet and goes, congratulations, mate, you're in. I'll see you tomorrow. And Sticky was real short, shook my hand, congratulated me, and that was it. And I was just like, oh, wow. And I always like that, because it was like, it just goes to show too, like, training's so important. Or you for me, I didn't think I was playing, but just through effort, just through one effort at training, that I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to rip in here. And then 2 weeks later, I play NRL.
That's crazy. Like you said, that moment, like, you're a bit bitter about not being in the freaking Premier League team. You get named at 22. Like, all of us, we're looking at the big league. And then you come out and you have a blinder at a training session, and then, like, Steve, just gives you the biggest rap. That's what can spark someone's, like, like, confidence. I used to love it when coaches used to give you the biggest rap, especially in front of everyone. You might feel a bit embarrassed, but at the same time, you know that you're getting someone's attention. And from that on, like, that sparked the journey into going into your debut. So, like, it happened so quick. What about the parents? Like, how did you get the family down?
They come down. So, like, obviously, as soon as I knew that morning, I rang everyone, and obviously Goulburn only being a couple of hours away, it was all right. So
get the tickets.
It was all a blur. You know, like, we ended up getting beaten extra time. The late Lance Thompson gave a penalty away in extra time, and I think Benji kicked a penalty goal from the win or whatnot. And
true. I think I remember that game.
but it was great. And I suppose after that year, I ended up leaving to go to the Cowboys. And I don't like to say, because I've always been open, so I don't have regrets. There are always lessons. I always look back and think, I learnt from making that decision or what. But it was a financial thing for me to obviously go to North Queensland. But at the time, I was like, and every time I say this, I'm kind of like, no one wanted to give me an opportunity, and then Sticky and Flano did, and then when it come to staying there, there's part of me sometimes think, if you just stayed there maybe and just, it was still okay money, but, but everything happens for a reason. I just, been having a good heart and just thinking if someone gave me an opportunity is always something. But no one can ever take that away from me, as well. And what he did, there's a lot of sides to Ricky that people don't see. And as he gets older, they probably start to a little bit. But he's such a good man. He's a passionate man that's just, he's got his players, are his mate. He just loves on them. But I think sometimes his frustration and anger sometimes overrides that. Yeah. But something I owe a lot to him.
I love, if there's one coach I love listening to in a press conference, it's Stiggy. I just love it because I'm good mates with Elliot Whitehead, and man, he speaks very highly of him. Like there's just your mate, bro. Yeah. And you want coaches like that. You want coaches that are gonna, tell you the harsh reality, tell you the truth, tell you that like, hey man, pull your finger out and do something good. Like you've seen him drop like players and they've come back even better.
Yeah.
So so you're going up to the Cowboys. How does that look, up there?
I was pretty excited. I went up there pretty early because obviously the conditions so hot up there. We go up there a couple of weeks early to acclimatise to it. We used to train early mornings and afternoons just because it's so hot. But the first year, mate, I really enjoyed my time there. Graham Murray signed me up there, and obviously mid to late year end up getting sacked. But I loved it, mate. We didn't do too well, but we had a great time off the field just as much. And I think as a young kid that just like lived and breathed rugby league, to go up there and play with some of the players I got to play with, JT, Webby, Mango and Luke O'Donnell, like all these kind of players, mate. And I'm like, I might not have played rep footy or set the world on fire in the NRL, but geez, I was fortunate to play some good people. And I say people too, mate, because they're good players, but a lot of these people don't get the raps, I suppose, of the genuine good people. And Towns will prove that to me, because it's like you're close knit there. You've only got each other, and it was a good opportunity, to have that togetherness. And it was cool because you always used to think, oh, I'm a young bloke, like one of these superstars aren't going to hang out with me, and that's just how it kind of was. But wasn't a thing there, And I really enjoyed my time there. The second year, Neil Henry came, and he was pretty open. I wasn't in his plans. Fair enough. Kind of didn't see eye to eye. I don't think. I think I always wanted Neil just to be real honest with me. And I just felt I probably wasn't getting that.
Yeah, true.
But Neil's a good guy, mate. I've had a bit to do with him post career, and he's a real good fella. And then after that, mate, I come to Burleigh for 12 months. It was a time to just get back to enjoying footy. And train part time with the Titans and that, but really spring-loaded me back into the NRL after that.
Who was your coach at Burleigh then?
Jiggers, Mark G.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Only did the 12 months and then he moved on.
And where'd you head after that?
Penrith.
Penrith. Oh, down the Riff. Where were you living in the Riff, bro?
I was in Glenmore Park to start with.
Glenmore Park's always a place to go.
But then we bought a house in South Penrith. We loved it, South Penrith there, and but same again, another like great little town and good people and just live and breathe rugby league. And a lot of the boys don't love that, like they like just keep to their own devices. But again, I took it all in. But Penrith, another great club. Again, went through. Matt Elliott signed me there, then he got sacked. George Arliss took over, then Ivan came. But 2012, when Ivan's first year, was arguably probably my best year in my career. And he just gave me opportunity. I was starting a lot of the games, and before obviously I ended up leaving mid-13 to go to Melbourne, and that was a bit of a debacle because I'd signed at the Raiders at the end of 2012, and no one knew about it, and the Raiders took me down there, and I was pretty pumped about it because obviously being from Goulburn, it was going to be a good opportunity for the family. But anyway, we did it all, and I had to do the right thing and go and tell Ivan. And then pretty much since telling him, I knew I wasn't going to be in his plans for the following year, and I was okay with that because I knew where I was going. And then when we signed the contract, Don Ferner was like, I'll keep this in my top drawer and I'll lodge it.
No way.
Yeah, whenever he said.
Man.
And because they were worried, mate, back then that a few Panthers backflipped on the Raiders.
Yep.
And they were worried I was going to do that. Little did they know the money they were giving me at Canberra was way more than what I was earning at Penrith. And I was never going to be backflipping on it. But because they didn't lodge that within 2 weeks, it was null and void. So that whole time, I'm sitting there doing a pre-season at Penrith, told Ivan I'm going to Canberra. Pretty much that contract sitting in the top drawer at Don's office, no good.
Yeah.
So I get to March, my manager rings me, he's on a cruise, and he's like, Raiders have pulled out. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, and I said, we've signed the contract. He goes, he hadn't lodged it. And then told me all that. So his manager's kind of fault as well to that. But again, talk about everything happens for a reason. But he's like, Melbourne want you to go down there. And mate, the money Melbourne was giving me was, way less than I was even earning at Penrith, But putting all that aside, you get the opportunity to go to Melbourne, mate, and not many do. So I had it with open arms, mate. I was just like, let's do it then. Let's forget that, and went down there. And mate, my time at Melbourne, I was there for 3 years, and take footy out of it, mate. The best experience of my life up until that point. Like what they do as a club and how they bring people together and make you the person you are is incredible. And the same kind of thing, I went down there that year, and I was biding my time. He said Jordan McLean hadn't debuted yet, a few young blokes. And anyway, Craig came up to me, Rilesley went down this 1 week, and I thought, I'm in. And he's like, West, I'll talk to you after training. And anyway, and he come to me after training, he's like, West, I'm not going to play you this week. And me being positive, is like, okay, all good. And he goes, but I probably won't be able to play you again this year. And I was like, I'd only signed the 1 year. And he goes, I don't know why, but it's something to do with the salary cap, and because we use the second tier salary, yada, yada, yada. So I couldn't play. And then they ended up re-signing me to stay on there, mate. But it was just another, I always share that, and I've been down to Melbourne a few times to talk to the team, with the Man of Gold stuff. But I had an opportunity before that session, and I'm not trying to pump me tyres here, but I'd always done extras. And before that session, I'd organised to do extras with my good mate Dan, who's the strength coach there. And after it, I could have kicked cans all the way to the car and then drove home, been upset. But, I owe the Storm for my attitude during that, because they created that. Me being in that environment made me go and do what I was going to do. Despite the disappointment that I was going through. I went inside, I did my extras, I sucked it up, and then I went home and let it all out, But they end up keeping me there for another couple of years, mate, and I go on to play first grade there. And there's so many people. Even I was at work yesterday, and one of the fireys are like, I'm just so jealous that you got opportunity to just be in that club. Like, said nothing about playing, just be in that club. He's like, I'd love to know what it's all about. And it's crazy. Everyone wants to know the secret of what Melbourne is, But
what's the secret, man?
I can't tell you. No.
Man, that's like you're going through like I feel like it's a roller coaster ride, your career. Like a lot of ups and downs, managers, contract debacles, and all this kind of stuff. Like, did you feel like it was like really weighing on you, like with your just on you, just in general? Like, did you say why do I keep doing this? I'll
probably rewind back, mate. We start talking about my mental health, but I was probably 24. I was at Penrith, and just bought a house. I was playing first grade every week, and I was just like, from outside looking in, a lot of people be like, Westo's got the life here. And I did to some extent. But when I was at training, I was like loving it. I was, good fella, like I was up and about, loved it. But as soon as I'd leave, it was like deflate. Like I'd just deflate straight away. I'd come home, we'd be miserable, and started affecting my relationship with my wife at the time. And she's kind of like, you need help. And back then, you didn't really get help, and it wasn't like it is now. And I remember going seeing a doc, and he said, you're depressed and you're riddled with anxiety. And at the time, I was just like, I didn't believe him, because I was like, one, I don't really know that. But then two, like back then, if you're depressed, you're broke or like you didn't have much, And so I sat there and I was a bit embarrassed by it, to go, well, I've got plenty, and so why, am I feeling this way? And the worst thing I did was ignore it, mate. So I didn't then go and tell anyone, after that. And so fast forward to when I'm at Melbourne, but when I leave Melbourne to go to the UK, again, these things started popping up. These feelings that I'd squashed, almost 6 years ago started, resurfacing again. And I think it's just a build up of it, mate, not dealing with it year after year, day after day, kind of as a player. And it's not blaming the game, because we can still be faced with so much adversity in the workplace or anywhere in life, but for us, that was what we did. And as we lived and breathed it, but, and it was something that, weighed on me, really heavy, obviously. And again, the second part, when I was in the UK, arguably the same as when I was playing my best footy at Penrith, I couldn't understand that how I could be at the top of my game professionally, but mentally be just gone, and I just couldn't fathom that. I'm like, I struggle to understand that. How can I perform, but I can't, like on the field and at training, but I can't be a good husband, I can't be a good father, and I just can't go and get help. Why can't I do that?
It's like we talk about going to England out of all places, like, no disrespect, man, it's like sometimes like you can get a bit miserable there, like with the weather. You're going there pre-season and it's like the winter's so cold, and then like you have to wake up and try and get up for these sessions. And you're probably going on this mat, like, I'm going to get myself up for this session, but then you just couldn't have the energy to just keep continuing on like that. Like, and then when you come home, it's just like, damn it, back to square one again and do it all over again. Like, how did you, we talk about you saying that you went through some darkest moments. Like, what, how did you really, find that proper help? Like, when did you make the call?
Until it was almost too late, mate. So my wife left when I was in the UK, hence why I retired straight away. And I'm looking back now, like I was hurt at the time. I was a victim, thought that she had the life, I worked and she didn't have to do anything and all that, mate. But it's not true. The wives do so much while we play and whatnot. So that was just my ego talking. It was my ego, saying I earn the money and you do this and it's not right. I'm not proud of that, but that's just how it was. She left and I was devastated, mate. My old man was over at the time and I just didn't understand. And too, like, we had a relationship we never really fought. So, and then this was our first kind of blow up. And I'm like, that's it. It's the end of it. So it was a bit of a shock. But then obviously when I do within my own work, I realised that she probably should have done this years ago, if I'm being fair. And so I had no closure. I had to pack up. I come here to the Gold Coast where I grew up. And early on, mate, I was trying to get back with her and that wasn't happening. And I was dealing with retirement. I was lost, mate. Like I'm not from here, and I'm trying to see my kids and just going through it. If you see me, mate, like I was skinny, like I looked gaunt, mate. I was to a point where I was just like, and I started getting help, but the psychologists were always trying to get me back with my wife, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for, and so I struggle with psychologists, and I nearly give up on them too. But someone was like persistent with me just to say, go to another one, and I'll end up going through 5 until I found one that actually suited me, And so I always tell people, like, if you're struggling and you go and see a psych and you feel like you don't connect with them, go and see another one. Because a lot of the time that's it. It's like just us as people. If we connect with someone, feel comfortable sharing, your stuff, and you're about to share some, deep stuff, find someone you can do that with, because there is a person out there. You just got to find them,
Yeah, 100%. Like, thanks for sharing that. What was the next move? Like, you obviously you're transitioning and you're going through, a bit of a relationship breakup, and you're pretty open about like your mental health, but you still got to try and kick on and do, and you pick up a role at the QRL. Is that right?
Yeah.
I remember us crossing paths when I was at Marsden State High School working there, and you were doing there. You were doing some good things. How did that like work out for you?
Yeah, well, I initially worked at the NRL doing game development stuff, and that was just I think a lot of us do that. It's just like easy, go to schools and do that. But it was never for me. It suited my life because of the kids, and just like taking them to school, pick them up, and work with my lifestyle. But then when I realised where I wanted to be and started doing work on myself, like I've always spent a lot of time around the wellbeing team at Melbourne, and I learned so much off Robbo and BP there. And I always wanted to help. You know, always have been someone that's wants to use my own story to help others. You know,
100%.
and I feel like if we can be vulnerable, you know, and it sets, you know, the tone for other people to do the same. And so I was always doing it. And my boss at the NRL knew this, and he ended up leaving the NRL to go work for the QRL.
Yeah.
So he was the one that gave me the call, and he's like, mate, we've got a job for you.
Yeah.
And then I was buzzing, you know, and I went up, went through the process, got the job, and mate, it was like at the time the perfect job, mate. You know, like I'm doing something I love. You know, I look after the community and dealing with some heavy stuff though, mate. You know, like I dealt with a few suicides and you know, we're talking young teenagers. You know, and they're not nice. But same again, mate. Like I feel like you put in these positions for a reason. Yeah. And I remember the first one I had, and my boss, knowing my background, I had to go to this first, you know, to see a family. I've just lost their son, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was, and I didn't think I would be, you know, but I think he knew obviously that this would bring up, you know, my past, but I just know, like, you know, through my found faith, it's like God's put me in this position to be that person, you know, like He's gave me these experiences in my life to go and be the light and help, you know, someone else, and a firm believer of that, mate. And I think that's my biggest asset is my experience in this space as well as being able to share it, because I know a lot of people can, and that's okay. But mate, I'll tell anyone my story, and I'll help anyone if I can, you know. But that was a really good role, and there's so many. Every day was different, you know, and got the opportunity to implement wellbeing in the community. A support squad was something that I was really pumped about, mate, and it was something.
Did you build that? You built that?
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. It was an idea that they had when I first got there, and I ran with it, mate. You know, like I just thought, look, I didn't understand why we didn't have it. Like we had all these other coloured shirts to look after people if they're injured or they're sick. I'm like, what about if you're struggling mentally? Yeah. So, that's I ended up leaving there because I got sacked because I didn't get the jab.
Yeah,
you know,
but I remember that.
That was a little bit disappointing, mate, and I don't want to get too political about that, but. One thing I am proud of is that, you know, at least I can leave my legacy to go that, you know, I was the one that implement, you know, that in the game, you know, but it's still something that I'd love to be involved, whether it's the QRL, the NRL, like I love that space, and I feel I can, you know, add a lot to it. Yeah,
nice. So, you know, obviously we said in the flowers there about your faith in that, you know, obviously you're a firm believer in Jesus as well. So like, how does that, when did that come about? Like, have you always been into faith?
No, I've always believed in God. Yeah. Like as a kid, like, it was always something that I like believed in. Went to church as a kid, just as a family kind of thing, but never really a religious family or anything. And then it was when I met my wife now, she was going to church, and initially it was just to impress her, mate, if I'm being fair. Yeah. And she's like, you don't have to come, and I went, and just the first time I went, I was just like, wow, this is like the worship music, and it was just like big theaterette. Like it wasn't the church that I pictured it back home in Goulburn, you know. Yeah. And then just time after going to church, I just felt like home, and I just had a few moments in church where I just was like, you know, this lost kid that you know just didn't know where he was going. His identity was always you know caught up in rugby league, and now to have my identity in Christ, it's like I know who I am. I know who I am as a person. You know, I know why I'm here and what it's about, and it's been amazing, mate. At the same time, like I've had so much come against us when you make that decision, and our family's gone through a lot of hell since that. But He's a faithful God, mate, and He just keeps showing up. So it's great.
Because I seen a couple of, I think it might have been a year ago that you got baptised. Is that right? Again.
Couple of years ago now. I was thinking it was about, it's a while now. Yeah. 2019.
What was that feeling like?
It was good, mate. It was emotional. Yeah. Really emotional. I get emotional now seeing other people do it because I think too, mate, like the identity thing's huge in sport. Yeah. And I think too, like when you have such a low opinion of yourself when you're going through a mental health battle and you're lost and you don't know what you're doing, it's easy to be so down and just feel like you're alone and no one loves you. mate, something happened in that day, mate, and it was emotional, but at the same time, I'm so grateful that I have a loving God that just loves me for who I am, and essentially, mate, that's it. You know, like, and despite my flaws and all the things that I've done to people and people I've upset, it's like He's still there with His arms wide open to be like, you know, I choose you. And yeah, it's pretty special, mate. Like, and you know, again, to share my testimony at church, and they made a bit of a thing about it, and I've always said I feel God uses me in ways for that same way. It's like, well, if this big bloke can get up and be vulnerable and, you know, give his life to Christ and change, like, why can't I? You know, like, there's such a pushback with it, mate. Like, I shared something on my Instagram the other day. I was just like, we're always looking. Well, people are always looking for something. Like, they're willing to try this or go and see a spiritual coach, or they want to do this, all these different things. But then you mention Jesus to them. Yeah. You mention like God. It's just like, not for me. Yeah. And I did. I reached out to someone that put something up the other week, and I was just like, Jesus, brother. That's all I wrote to him. He just said, like, he was positive, but he just said, not for me. And with all due respect, I'm not pushing on anyone, but I just always ask, like, why not? Like, if we're so open, you know, like, and we want more, there's just everyone, I feel a lot of people have pat me on the back since to be like, geez, that's so good, and da-da. And I'm like, it's there for you too. You know, like, it's not this religious kind of rules and things you got to stick by. It's just be a good person. Help other people. Like, it's actually pretty simple, you know, but really grateful, mate. But, you know, like I say, recently I made a more of a decision to be more intentional with it, you know, like, not just go through the motions, actually, you know, dive into my Bible every morning. Because every time I do, you know, He just shows up, you know, and that's the beauty of it. But yeah, massive part of it, mate. And on that identity stuff too, and I feel like I've got a beanie bonnet here.
No, that's all right.
No, but it was the other day when Nico Hines shared the other day about, you know, 80 minutes doesn't define me as a person. I back him, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's pretty harsh to hear all ex-players and journos sit there and rip him about it.
I know.
And at the end of the day, like, this is why I shared it on Instagram. Like, this is why we are, when we transition, and why we have issues with players when they're done, because they don't know who they are. They literally, they think that everything's tied up, and then we wonder why people have mental health issues. They wonder why they get derailed or turn to drugs and alcohol and all this stuff, because the education's not there, and then they are under the belief that that's all I am. I remember even like doing my resume after I hadn't worked before, and then I paid this lady $200 to do my resume, because I was like, what am I going to say on it?
Yeah, 100%.
And mate, and the way she like did it and articulated it and said it out, you read it back and you're like, yeah, I have done that. Like, there's so many things you do as a footy player, and discipline, and, you know, getting there on time, like all these different things. And it's just like, but we're under this, you know, understanding that we think that that's who we are and that's what defines us. Like, it's not at all, you know. But
I'm massive on the identity. I feel as though I know I can relate to that. As a young kid, man, used to go to church every Sunday with my old man, and, you know, and like, it was more. But for me, like, back then, like, it was just family gatherings. That's all it was for me. But at the same time, as I grew older, like, and when I became like so fixated on being a rugby league player and being a professional athlete, I was like, man, I don't know if I've got time for that, you know, and it sort of like took me away from who I was as a person and my identity. And I don't regret it, but at the same time, why didn't I, like, you know, get into my culture? Why didn't I do all that kind of stuff as a young kid, you know, instead of just like, you know, you do so much for the game and the game gives so much back to you, but at the end of the day, is it worth it, you know? So that's something. But hey, I always say this to any kid that I go into school and deliver the programs to. I say, like, never forget where you're from. Always go back, give back to the people that help you get to where you are today, you know, because, like, that's massive. Like, and you talk about identity, it's so good. Yeah, man, let's dive into, you know, you're a firefighter now, man. How did that start? How did that process start? When did that, like, you know, because it's not an easy process, bro. And, like, give us an idea on how that started.
When I was working at the NRL, I kind of, one of me, like Bacco, who I was talking about before, he'd been in the job, and had a few, mate, Brian Norrie and I, when were at Melbourne, we did Jane Lowder.
Yeah,
she
Jane
used to
Lowder,
come to
she's
clubs
a
and
gun.
whatnot. So what he's going to do, and you start putting ideas as you start to head towards the back of your career, and this lady come from the fire service in Melbourne, and me and Noz were like, oh, that'd be all right. And so you can't really do anything, It's not like you do an apprenticeship, become a fire or whatnot. But so me and Noz went and did like a week at Richmond Fire Station down in Melbourne, and just hung at the station and kind of just seen what it was all about. So that was the first time I kind of was exposed to the idea. But then when I come to the Gold Coast, I was working the NRL a bit, and then my mate was kind of like, why don't you just, apply? And I don't know why I put it off, mate. I should have just applied straight away. But I eventually applied, and then the process took 12 months. So 2020, January, I applied, and then you go through all the tests. A beep test was the first one. I hadn't run in like 2 years.
What was your beep test like then?
It was, mate, you had to do 9.6.
Oh, man, that's easy.
Yeah, well, so I went down the courts and measured it out. 6.5 I got the first time. I was like, I've got a bit of work to do here. But yeah, so you go through that all the way till October. So like just every few months you'd have a next stage, and you only find out by email, mate. So you literally be just refreshing like week after week, waiting for this email. And anyway, I got to the end where you pass everything, and then you go into a pool. So pretty much when they need like people from whatnot, because I wanted to be here on the coast, you're not guaranteed the coast. I was happy to go anywhere southeast, and then got an offer. Well, this went on for 2 years, so. And then eventually, when I thought it was all done and dusted, I got an offer for the coast, and mate, I was buzzing. And then go to the academy for 4 months. So go up to Brisbane, and we stay up there. So they put you up if you're, I think, 70 k's away from the academy. So that was cool, mate. Like it was hard with the family. I'd go up there Monday to Friday, come home at the weekend. 4 months of training, graduate, and then straight on the shift. So been a bit over 12 months now, and best job. Like, honestly, like I say to everyone pretty much, walking advertisement for it. But as athletes too, like you go from being around your teammates all the time and this, that, and then you go in the workplace, and sometimes just working at a desk by yourself. Like the like fire service is like just like going to work with your mates. You go to jobs and you go to jobs. When you're not, you like hang around the station, go for coffee, you go there, like just build this camaraderie. You don't have to be best mates with everyone, but it's, I can't speak highly of it, eh?
What kind of, is it like, you said about like the connections and what about the training side of things? What kind of mindset do you need to be a firefighter?
I mean, I think you just got to have an open mind. I think there's a lot of what we do, and again, only early days for me, but I think everyone thinks a fire is just, puts out fires, and it's part of our job. But the biggest part of the job is rescue. So car accidents, you'll go to more of them and more alarms here on the Gold Coast at high rises than you do fires. And I think early on, suicide, another thing. Like I've had one of the boys from my course had to cut someone down, and which is pretty raw, for someone that's never been exposed to that. And until you are, that's when the first time. And for me, I'd never been exposed to that. I've dealt with people going through it, obviously, but we've had a few, jump off the cliff and so body retrievals and stuff. So there is some stuff, mate, that you're going to be exposed to. And I think early on you kind of know, but it's probably not until you do be in them situations. But they got fantastic help, mate. We got psychology for the rest of our life now, sorted, and they got good support network through there, and that's for our family as well. So because if it's, if I'm struggling, my wife's probably struggling, my kids potentially, and even with shift work and such. So the support's incredible with that. They do debriefs after big jobs like that as well, which is really important in this day and age, mate. Like back in the day, the fireys would have just done the job and then had some dark humour about it and got on with it. But the more we get out of that generational cycle, I just feel like the new kind of regime of fire is going to be all about opening up and talking. And early on, mate, like I've only been in the job and you know what I'm like I'm already having conversations with people, it's so good.
So how does the schedule look like, being a fiery? Like you said that you got the night shift tonight, like what what does it look? Is it how are the hours, and all that?
So we do 2 days, so 2 10-hour days. So work 7 in the morning till 5 at night.
Yeah.
2 of them, which I've just done, and then tonight we'll start at 5 and finish at 7 in the morning. So 2 14-hour nights, and then 4 days off.
Oh.
And then every 4.5 months, you get a month off.
Oh. Mate, that's a life. Mate, that's probably. I don't want to call it a 9 to 5. That's like it's a 9 to 5 that you love doing.
Yeah.
You love turning up and you love being a fiery and love doing that. But it's got the mad perks. It's almost like going. Sometimes people would rather go and work in the mines and do 4 days on and 4 days off. But I feel like that's.
Oh mate, it's so
ideal.
good, and it gives you opportunity too. Because I need to people have things on the side, like tradies will go and do like cashies, on the side, or keep them busy and earn some more money or whatnot. But I can't sit still a lot of the time. So eventually I want to get to a place where I've got something else and keep my mind going, or study, or just something. But we do a bit of study because we're just starting with part of it's like an apprenticeship. You got to do some assignments and stuff like that, and. But mate, after your 2 days, like you come in tonight, and even if you have a rough night, you're a bit tired the next day, but you essentially feel like you do 2 days, and then you're off for 6.
Yeah, that's so good. So what is I know. Do you have any other interests? We'll dive into the Men of Gold soon, but is there any other interest besides the fiery stuff and that?
Not really, mate. I never knew kind of what I was want to do when I finished, kind of thing. But I've always wanted to coach. Again, to coach, it's time. It's as a fiery, I'm like, it just wouldn't work. It's 4 on 4 rotating roster. I could. But even with the Fireys, we're a footy team, and even just as simple as that.
I've seen that you play for Queensland, bro.
Yeah, I know. Queensland Fiery. But yeah, even that, it's cool how they do that. Like they went to America a few years ago, in New York, and but
that's
always
got urine all over it.
Yeah, I always like that feeling of just want to coach a team, and maybe that's something down the I can do within that. But apart from that, mate, I think the well-being side of it's always just been something, and whether it earns me money or not, mate, I think it's just part of my DNA now, where I'm just kind of that's who I am, and I just find myself in these conversations sometimes. And I had a few at work the other day, and I text one of the Fireys after it, and it's just funny. Sometimes you're helping someone else, and then they're helping you, and that's how it works. Yeah. And just said, I really appreciate your time, mate. And it's amazing how just a conversation can change someone's perspective or brighten their day, mate. And I always say that, but it's cool to have that in a job that you potentially one bell drop and you're going into a house fire to save someone's life. So that's the reality of it. So you want to be tight with these people, you want to have that camaraderie and togetherness. Yeah. Because
I remember when you I remember that post when you posted up a couple of years back about getting let go because you wouldn't get vaccinated there, and I was a bit upset about that. Just thinking, man, that's so sad. You do so much, you put so much effort in, getting out to the schools and building a great program, the support squad, and bringing it into local clubs, and it's just that's it. You're done. Straight after that, you're obviously going through the fiery stuff and that, but then what sparked the Men of Gold?
Through my own story, obviously, initially. But I think working with the QRL, I was always seeing mental health initiatives or people talking about it and giving a presentation and whatnot, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, the only way we're ever going to change this is having people open up and get vulnerable. And I was like, I need to create a space where men can come and do that. And I didn't know of too many places that offered that. So initially I went to church and they were going to give me the space to go, you can come and use the cafe and
that the one down in Cooley?
Yeah. Anyway, so I got me pastor at the church because you need a team, mate. You can't just do this by yourself. And 3 of the lads from church who were good mates with, they were keen to do it. And so we started it, and mate, we had 73 men come the first one. Damn. And a lot of people probably just seeing what it's about, whatnot. But that went from 50 to 25, and then we could get anywhere from 3 people to 15 on an average. So it was really encouraging. We had so many good conversations, and at the start we had this big agenda, but after the intro we used to have highs and lows, and the agenda went out the window because it's just like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to like have an icebreaker to get someone going, and they can't stop. And so I think it's important, mate. You know, like a lot of us have gone through a generation where our fathers probably didn't teach us that. You know, we weren't exposed to it at home, and it's not, you know, bagging them or blaming them. It's just that's how it was.
It's part of society back then.
Yeah, exactly. But we have the opportunity to change that as fathers ourselves, 100%. To be like, well, I'm doing this for other people, but I also want my kids to see it, so they're not in my position when you know they're my age. You know, so
So, man, I love the sessions that you've been hosting down at the Coolie. That looks so good. Good vibes. Just a gun show, eh? Is that what it is, bro?
Well, that's the other part. I mean, I always wanted to be able to be agile with it, you know, like, and not just say like, come and tell me all your, you know, deep dark secrets and that be it, you know, like, because I know men love connection just as much. You know, it's another big piece of, you know, and what the boys at the RLPA are doing as well. But for me, it is like there's a lot of lonely men out there, mate. You know, and if you take sport away from them, you take their work away from them. It's like, unless they're going to the pub, and if they go and they're anxious, don't know anyone, they'll have 6 schooners, and then they're mates with everyone. And I'm kind of like, I don't want that. No, like that's not the way through, you know. Like, so it's like having the gym sessions where you get the guys there, they love it. No legs, just all upper body.
Just upper body. I've seen it, man. I've got to come to one.
But it's good, mate. You know, and the good thing about that is there's no intention to talk.
No.
Come and train. We go get a coffee and a feed. And, mate, I've had some conversations in those ones where it's just like they naturally happen. Yeah. People have seeked me out and they've come and they've had the chat. And I'm like, sometimes that's how it works. It's like, that's why I'm not so black and white. It has to be done this way. It's like, no, we'll find if that works, let's try it. Let's try it 100 ways if we have to. But my intention's always going to be the same. And that's why I said when we first started doing the weight sessions, it's like, I'm all for this, but if we stop losing the side of why we're doing this for, then it just becomes another session at Active Coolangatta. It's like, that's not what I'm doing it for. So it's been encouraging, mate, without being prompted. Men just, you know, want to open up. And I've sensed it a few times, mate. I've seen people come for the first time, and it's a good icebreaker because they just come to train. But by the time the session that builds that camaraderie, they feel a bit more comfortable. So then they're more likely to probably do it. And that's why I say about the men's groups, you know, like if men just understood, and they're always asking what it's like and that, and if they just actually come and tasted it, just literally walk through the door, they don't have to even say anything. They walk away feeling so much better, mate. And even if it's not them sharing, it's them hearing someone else share. So I think it's still powerful hearing someone else be vulnerable, because what you share might help me, you know, and it might be what I needed that day.
I remember we done this activity, and it was I reckon it wasn't meant to be about vulnerability. It was just pretty much we were at a camp, we were playing for St. Helens, and they just said, bring something that's so special to you, you know, that you value, okay? It could have been anything. So I remember bringing this necklace that my old man gave me, and man, when I got up there and started speaking, I started choking up. Then like the tears started like rolling out, and I go, wow, what's happening? You know, and like I wasn't the only one. Next person goes up, same thing, just choking up, just getting like real vulnerable, and like, bro, that was probably one of the most powerful sessions I've ever been a part of. Like just a group setting, just grown men just getting up and just, you know, tearing up. Yeah. Bro, it brought us so close together. We're not winning the comp that year. You know what I mean?
That's so good.
So that's just through just a simple vulnerability activity. Yeah. And it's crazy. You get to know the other person, why they do that, what the struggles they've been through and all that kind of stuff. I feel like, and I've been to one of your men's groups, and, you know, like it's not easy, but once you get it off your chest, you just go, wow, that felt so good, you know? So like, yeah, man, I'm a massive fan of what you do. Love how you're doing it with trying to get all the boys together. Tell me about the workshops that you've been doing around, you know, with these clubs. And I know you went to the Sharks one time.
Yeah, I went down to Melbourne there as well. Been there a couple of times with them. And, mate, same kind of thing. You know, like I have to force my way in there, you know, and we know what it's like. If you don't book it in November, like you struggle to get down there. And they're always prioritising, you know, on the field and in the gym. And I was having a wrestle with Melbourne, and Oban was said to him, like, of all clubs, you know, normally just like, yep.
Come in.
But went down there, mate, and it was so powerful. I'd been to Cronulla a few weeks before, and the same thing happened. Well, there initially, I did what I normally talk about, and I always say, like, I'm not here just for a PowerPoint. I want you guys to interact. It's just the only way that's going to work. But it's about me leaving something behind, so then you guys can then go on with it. You know, it's not just look at these stats and then 40 minutes later the Westo's gone. I want you to be able to take this and then go, well, what can we implement now moving forward? And even the highs and lows thing, mate, like I said, like we do videos sessions all the time as footy players. What's stopping is before the session saying, right, let's do 5 highs and lows before we start. Get to know each other, because, mate, a few of the guys at Cronulla, and I won't name names, obviously, like, opened up, and one person in particular, mate, like, you wouldn't have expected it, just started opening up, and, mate, it had people, like, no idea that it happened in his life, and it was pretty emotional, mate. And, you know, and you sit there and listen, and then after it, people are so grateful for it. But it's so simple. Like, I haven't, like, created this, you know, I haven't gone to uni and worked out how to do this. It's literally just one person having the courage to go, you know what? And I feel too, mate, when you set an environment where people feel like they can talk, that's the key to it. Because if you're sitting there and you have someone that in front of 30 of your teammates share something for the first time you've never told anyone, that's powerful, mate. And like you were saying before about your situation, mate, that's leadership. You know, whether you get up there and hold what you did and you bawl your eyes out, who cares? Mate, that's powerful, mate. You know, like...
You know, the funny thing about that was no one wanted to get up first. So I said, no, I'll do it. Because I just knew where it was going. As soon as I started, like, you know, talking about my old man, started getting choked up. Because, you know, he was pretty much that dude that, like, you know, if it wasn't for him, rugby league wouldn't have been a thing. You know what I mean? So like, when he gave me that necklace, I carry that around with me all the time. So that's so crazy. Like, I know when those moments are going to happen. And, like, as soon as I got up and, like, you know, when I was talking about that, then shit, like, everyone's just like, damn, this is going to be one of those days, you know? But it's normal. We should, we need to normalize it. You can't be just like, you know, let's get this over and done with. And that, man, that was the key moment of, like, where our season was. Like, it was a preseason camp, and that was the key moment for that whole season. And we ended up winning the comp. So,
and that's what you try and say to them, mate. Even when I go to them, it's like, I'm not just doing it for that. Melbourne, the same thing happened. And one young bloke was, you know, courageous, mate. And I would have expected one of the leaders to get up first and lead by example. But this young bloke did, and it just set the tone, and other people. And then I told him I'd been at Cronulla. So I set him the challenge to go, mate, we had a heap of them open up. You know? And one of the boys, same kind of thing. Like, a lot of people shared, but one in particular shared something he'd never spoken about. And, mate, I was in tears. He was in tears. I reckon half the room was in tears, mate. And some of his mates around that got around him is like, they couldn't believe that they knew him and they never knew that. You know, and it just goes to show, you know, like, we're all battling something that, you know, no one knows anything about, you know, sometimes. And that's why it's always important to be kind and, you know, look out for each other, you know, because people have a good ability to, you know, hide things, you know.
No, that's awesome, man. This is good chats, man. We could probably talk on for days if we really wanted to, me and you, because I love this. And I love like, you know, diving deep into, you know, our guests and what they get up to now. But before we close it out, we always finish off with a key message. What's a key message you can give to our audience, man?
Yeah, I thought about this today actually, and I think the biggest one for me is if there's something out there you're passionate about, and we're always good at going, oh, I can't start this or I can't do this. That was me, mate. You know, like even with Men of Gold initially, and even diving into doing some of my own stuff, always was easy to find reasons why I can't start it, more so than why it will work. So find something you're passionate about and actually do whatever it takes to get you there. Because, mate, being a firey now and being in a job that I absolutely love, I sometimes see people, and I'll drive to work and I'll see people on the side of the road changing the stop-go sign or doing jobs. And I know so many people, mate, that hate their job. They hate going to work.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've got a job. I literally, it's part of my lifestyle. I go, and I think we're not here a long time, mate. You know, like, so find something you're passionate about and work towards it. You know, like, stop allowing finances to prevent you doing something. Like, I see the most well-off people, mate, are miserable. You know, like, they might have all the money and all the materialistic things. It's like, but what's it all for if you're not happy?
Yeah.
You know, you got to be happy, and not everyone's going to do something the perfect job, you know, for them. But why not? Like, if you're willing, it's like, you know, playing footy. If you don't just give it to you work it out that that's what you want to do. So you do the steps to get there because you know how to get there. It's the same with work, or you know, you want to start a business. Like, my wife's the same. She had a lot, backed herself, and has had the faith, mate. And and that's it. It's just like, we'll always find limitations, but if we're willing to work our backside off, mate, you know, we can make it happen. Like, have a bit of faith in yourself, you know.
Yeah, I like that. Back yourself, man. If you got an idea out there, we always say that on this podcast. Go out there and chase it. Don't wait for someone else to do it.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
it.
But man, hey, you know what? Chats like this can go on forever, but we have to cut it there, man. But thank you for your time, man. I know you're busy, man, out there saving lives and that, doing some good stuff in the community, especially the Men of Gold. Hey, the Men of Gold, man. Like, when's our next workshop? You know, like, get down. Follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is it at Men of Gold?
Yeah,
at Men of Gold. So I'm a massive fan of it. I've got to come down and do some sessions and that as well, and, you know, open up again. And shout out to all our sponsors. We do have a new sponsor, CMBT. They're a combat performance and sports center down in the Gold Coast here, and then obviously SMSF Learning Centre, Newbie Planks, Talent Locker. We've got a lot of them, so shout out to all you guys. And like, share, subscribe. We're looking for 1,000 subscribers, so get on there. Let's go.